maybe just, looking around, and you spot a Lamborghini Countach.
Woo! Yeah.
And you're probably thinking, okay, nice. That guy must have worked like 50 years, got super lucky.
Right, the standard story.
But the driver, he looks young. And when you ask him how, he doesn't mention a 401k. He just says, I'm an inventor.
That one moment, it really cuts against the grain, doesn't it? Everything we're usually told about money.
Totally. It plants this seed, like maybe building real wealth doesn't have to be this super slow, decades-long slog towards, well, mediocrity.
Exactly. Maybe you can actually achieve it while you're, young and have the energy to enjoy it, a different path.
Absolutely. And that's precisely what we're digging into today. We've got some really fascinating source material here, mostly from the Millionaire Fastlane.
Yeah, and it pretty much rips apart a lot of the conventional financial wisdom out there.
It really does. So our mission here is to be your guides through this. We'll pull out the key nuggets, some surprising bits, and help you, our listener, get up to speed on these, let's say, counterintuitive ideas.
Quickly and thoroughly, yeah. Without you feeling totally swamped by all the detail.
Because this stuff, it seriously challenges the default roadmap society hands us for getting ahead financially.
It really forces you to question, the path most people are just automatically following. And it makes a strong case that a lot of common strategies, they're actually aiming for a destination far short of what you might consider real wealth.
And it simplifies it, kind of visually, into 3 main financial roadmaps. Think of them like different highways people take.
Each leading somewhere specific.
Right. There's the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. And the book basically maps these to poorness, mediocrity, and wealth, respectively.
And it's not just about investing tactics, is it? It's deeper. It's about your whole philosophy, your mindset, how you even interact with money and the world.
Okay, so let's start unpacking that. First up, the sidewalk. What does that actually look like?
Well, the sidewalk is basically living for today. Heavy focus on short-term gratification, often paired with some pretty serious financial irresponsibility.
Like impulse buys?
Big time. The source uses this image of driving at the financial red line, like you're always right on the edge of a cliff. It's paycheck to paycheck, lots of credit card debt for that instant hit of pleasure.
And why does that road almost always lead to, well, poorness?
Because there's zero long-term thinking, no foundation being built. Sidewalkers, as the book calls them, they often get completely derailed by life's little bumps.
Oh, I got laid off, or my car broke down.
Exactly. And the reaction is often to blame something external. The core issue, the source argues, is a real lack of accountability. There's no financial plan.
Just hope.
Pretty much. Hoping for maybe government help or an inheritance or hitting the lottery, and none of those are, actual controllable strategies.
And this is where the source starts messing with our common ideas about wealth itself.
I'd say.
Right? The sidewalker seems to chase stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The flashy car they can't really afford, expensive gadgets, designer clothes. The book has a great term for it, lifestyle servitude.
Lifestyle servitude. Okay.
They're financing all this stuff, which actually just traps you in debt. It ironically makes you less free.
So it's the opposite of wealth.
Completely. The book contrasts it with a more holistic view of true wealth. Strong relationships, good health, freedom, especially freedom of time, and being able to make a difference.
That example of financing an $80,000 Mercedes.
Right. Over 6 years. That's not wealth. That's being a slave to that car payment.
Yeah.
True wealth in this view is having the freedom to just walk in, pay cash, and drive off without it even making a dent in your life.
It also tackles those common sayings you hear, like, money doesn't buy happiness.
And the book's response is pretty blunt. Just poverty. I mean, it's not saying money is everything, obviously.
But pretending it has zero impact.
Yeah, that's naive. Another big sidewalk belief it attacks is rich people just got lucky.
Ah, the luck excuse. Classic.
It is. And the source totally reframes luck. It argues luck usually isn't some random bolt from the blue like winning the lottery.
So what is it then?
It's something you create through process, through taking action, putting yourself out there where opportunities can actually find you. Like that Mark Cuban quote reference, nobody called him lucky when he was grinding away reading dense manuals.
Right, they only see the outcome.
Exactly. And those get-rich-quick schemes, they feed directly into that sidewalk desire for a sudden, passive event that magically creates wealth.
That event-driven thinking connects to another point the book makes, victimhood.
Yes. The argument is that sidewalkers often see themselves as victims. Victims of the system, the economy, life being unfair.
Yeah.
They push the blame outwards.
But the antidote, according to the source, is accountability.
Precisely. It makes a really key distinction.
Yeah.
You might be responsible for something like, okay, you got a speeding ticket because you were but accountability is owning that choice, owning the consequence, and then crucially, changing your behavior going forward.
Taking the driver's seat.
That's the phrase the book uses. It immunizes you against victimitis. When you own your failures, they become lessons. They build wisdom. If you don't own them, they just reinforce that victim story.
Okay, so that's the sidewalk. Pretty clear pitfalls there.
Mm-hmm.
What about the path most of us are actually taught? The slow lane.
Right, the slow lane. This is the one we all recognize, the get-rich-slow playbook.
Go to school, get a good job.
Yep. Get a degree, secure a job, work for 40, maybe 50 years, save diligently, maybe 10%, 15% of your income.
Put it in the 401k, mutual funds.
Standard stuff, live frugally. And then hopefully, like, way down the road, you'll have enough saved up to retire. Maybe comfortably.
It's definitely a step up from the sidewalk. There's responsibility there, planning.
For sure. It sounds solid. It's the advice you hear everywhere.
But the book argues this path is basically designed for mediocrity.
Okay, the fundamental flaw, according to the source, is the equation it's built on. You are trading your time directly for money.
Whether it's hourly wage or salary.
Doesn't matter. Your income is tied to the hours you put in. And time. Well, time is finite. It's limited. You can't just magically create more hours in the day.
So you can't scale it.
Exactly. You can't leverage it beyond a certain point. The book calls it a mathematical prison.
And that 5-for-2 trade. Working 5 days just to get 2 off.
Yeah, presented as a fundamentally bad return on your most valuable asset, your time.
What about compound interest? Isn't that the slow lane magic bullet?
Well, yes and no. Compound interest is incredibly powerful. But the source makes a really strong point. To build serious wealth just from small, regular contributions, it takes an enormous amount of time, decades and decades.
Like that example in the book. Investing $1,000 back in 1940.
Right. And the S&P 500, it only makes you a millionaire by the time you're like 71 or maybe even 91. It highlights the huge time dependency.
So compound interest isn't really for creating wealth from zero. It's more for growing wealth you already have.
That's the argument. The wealthy use it differently, not to get rich initially, but to generate significant passive income and liquidity once they have large sums. It's powerful. But you need the large sum first for it to have that kind of impact.
Trying to start a tidal wave right at the shore, not miles out at sea.
Good analogy. Yeah.
And this leads to something the book calls the paradox of practice.
Yeah, this is pretty provocative. The source points out that many of the big financial gurus pushing the slow lane, it sort of anonymizes them as Suze or Robert types.
Okay.
They often didn't get rich following their own slow lane advice. They got rich using fast lane methods.
How so?
By selling millions of books, building huge personal brands, running expensive seminars. They're profiting from selling the advice, which is a fast lane business model, not just by diligently saving 10% of a salary for 40 years.
Huh. That definitely makes you think. Are they wealthy because the advice works wonders, or because they built a great system selling the advice?
It raises questions about incentives, for sure. And beyond just being slow, the book argues the slow lane is actually dangerous.
Dangerous, but it feels so safe and sensible.
The danger, according to the source, lies in its reliance on factors outside your control. Ultimately, it relies on hope.
Hope for what?
Hope you live long enough to see the returns. Hope you stay employed consistently for decades. Hope the stock market performs well over that entire time. These are massive variables. Your financial future is largely left to chance and the calendar.
And even if it all works out perfectly, what's the destination? That slow lane millionaire.
The book argues that the typical millionaire next door often lives a pretty modest, comfortable, upper middle class life, which is fine, but it's not usually the kind of explosive wealth or total freedom most people dream about.
And inflation has changed things too.
Massively. The source points out that $1 million today, that's basically solid upper middle class. It argues maybe $5 million is the new $1 million in terms of real lifestyle freedom. So the slow lane, even when successful, often lands you in financial mediocrity compared to what's possible.
Okay, so sidewalk leads to poorness. Slow lane, the standard path, often leads to mediocrity and relies heavily on hope.
What's the alternative this source material lays out? The fast lane.
Right, the fast lane. It's presented as a completely different framework, a roadmap, a lifestyle, really, that's intentionally designed to create significant wealth much faster.
Ideally while you're still young enough to really enjoy it.
Exactly, not decades down the line.
And the core shift, the fundamental change in thinking, is moving from being just a consumer
Someone who mostly spends and owes.
to becoming a producer, someone who actually creates value, builds assets. It's about understanding how money is made, not just how you spend or save it.
And the source gives us the engine for this, the core equation. CUL, controllable unlimited leverage. CUL. Okay, controllable unlimited leverage? That sounds powerful. How does that work?
It works by removing time as the main limiting factor in your wealth equation. It allows for potentially exponential growth because you're not just trading hours for dollars anymore.
So how do you get that kind of leverage?
Through what the book calls the law of affection. Simple idea, profound implications.
Okay.
The law basically states, the more lives you positively affect, the richer you will become. You can affect lives either through scale reaching millions of people or through magnitude having a large impact or profit per person.
Affect millions, make millions.
That's the essence of it. But, and this is crucial, that wealth usually trickles up to the owner, the producer of the system that creates that effect, not typically to the employees working within the system trading their time.
Got it. So to harness that law of affection, you need a vehicle. The book talks about building business systems, calls them money trees.
Yeah, the money tree analogy is central, and the absolute main goal here is critical. Detach your income from your time.
So it's not just creating another job for yourself.
Definitely not. A fast lane business needs to become a system, something that generates passive income or builds appreciating assets that work for you, whether you're actively working in it hour by hour or not.
And it lays out 5 main types of these systems, these money tree seedlings.
Right. 5 broad categories of businesses or assets that can potentially operate somewhat independently of your direct time input.
Okay, what are they?
First, rental systems, think real estate, but could be other things you rent out. Second, computer software systems, apps, websites, SaaS, things that can scale digitally.
Makes sense.
Third, content systems, books, blogs, videos, courses, create it once, potentially sell it many times. Fourth, distribution systems like inventing a product and getting it into retail, or Amazon FBA, leveraging existing channels.
Yeah.
And fifth, human resource systems, basically, businesses that employ other people. Though the caveat is the ideal fast lane system leverages automation as much as possible, not just trading your time for managing others' time.
The author's own example, that internet funding business.
Yeah, is presented as combining systems. The internet system, content software, funding the lending system, rental financial.
And this brings us back to compound interest, but used differently.
Exactly. This is where the wealthy do leverage it powerfully. But not for wealth creation from scratch, for income generation from large sums.
Like the $10 million example.
Yeah. If you have $10 million and can get a conservative, say, 5% return, that's over $41,000 a month in passive income without touching the principal. That's using compound interest at scale for income and liquidity. Totally different game than saving pennies for 40 years.
Right. Okay, so you've conceptualized your Fastlane vehicle, your business system. How do you actually drive it? The book gives us 5 Fastlane commandments.
Yeah, these are like the non-negotiable rules of the road for a Fastlane business.
Rule number 1, the commandment of need.
Absolutely foundational. Your business must solve a real need, a problem, a pain point, an inefficiency, a desire in the marketplace.
This isn't just about your passion project.
No. The source says building on need is like building on rock-hard cement. Building just on passion without market need is like building on shifting sand. It flips that do what you love advice.
So it's more like do what serves others effectively.
Precisely. Stop chasing money directly. The book compares money to a mischievous cat chase it, and it runs away. Focus instead on creating massive value by solving problems people genuinely have. That's what attracts money.
Like that martial arts studio example.
Perfect example. Guy loved martial arts, opened a studio, failed. Why? He focused on his love, not on solving a specific need or pain point for potential customers in his area. The financial return you get is a direct reflection of the value you provide.
Okay, commandment 2, the commandment of time. We sort of covered this, but it's a core rule.
Critical to hammer home, your income must be detached from your time. If the business only makes money when you are physically there doing the work, you haven't built a business, you've built a job, a potentially very demanding job.
The coffee shop owner story, Ashlyn.
Yeah, illustrates it perfectly. Her business ended up owning her because she couldn't step away. She couldn't afford the systems or automation needed to detach her time.
Commandment 3. Scale or magnitude.
Right. For fast lane levels of wealth, your business needs the potential to impact a lot of people, either through scale, selling many units to many people, even with small margins.
Like a popular app or widget?
Exactly. Or through magnitude, selling fewer units, but with a very high profit or impact per unit.
Like high-end consulting or selling yachts.
Right. A local business, like a single pizza place or a small retail store, inherently has limited scale. Its geography and capacity put a speed limit on how fast wealth can accumulate.
And that ties back to the law of affection again. The big rewards flow to the owner of the system that achieves that scale or magnitude.
Not necessarily the employee within it, like the doctor example mentioned in the source. Great skills, but income often capped by time and limited scale.
Okay, Commandment 4. The commandment of control.
You got to be in the driver's seat. You need to control the crucial aspects of your business. Your pricing, your product development, your marketing, your operations.
Don't be a hitchhiker.
That's the term. Don't be at the mercy of someone else's decisions or platform changes. This is where the source expresses caution about things like franchises or especially MLM structures for the participant.
Because you give up control.
You give up critical control over pricing, product, sometimes even marketing methods, and compensation structures. The example of the friend losing his entire MLM income overnight because the company changed the rules, that highlights the risk perfectly.
So the principle is,
Yeah.
invest in your thing, your brand, your system.
Absolutely. Don't build someone else's empire for them while taking all the risk.
And the final one, Commandment 5. The commandment of entry.
This one catches people off guard sometimes, basically. The easier it is for anyone to start a business in a particular field, the less likely it is to be a true fast lane opportunity.
Why is easy entry bad?
Because easy entry means massive competition. Everyone piles in, margins get crushed, it becomes commoditized. Think about the gold rush analogy.
Don't dig for gold, sell the shovels.
Exactly. The real money was often made by those providing the tools and services to the miners, because that had higher barriers to entry than just grabbing a pan.
So network marketing often fails this.
Often fails spectacularly, according to the source, unless you are the one creating the MLM company itself. If anyone can sign up in 5 minutes with $50, the barrier to entry is virtually zero. Most participants are just, interchangeable foot soldiers in the founder's fast lane army.
You're looking for those everyone is doing it trends.
Yeah, like the tech bubble or the housing bubble mentioned. Those can be warning signs of easy entry, overcrowding, and maybe limited long-term fast lane potential for newcomers. It doesn't mean impossible, but it means the path is congested.
So low barriers often mean you need absolutely stellar execution, or it's just not a fast lane road.
That sums it up well.
Okay, that's the vehicle and the rules of the road. But the book spends a lot of time on the driver, too, tuning yourself for this journey.
Yeah, because the best car won't get you there if the driver isn't right. It all starts internally, with your beliefs, your choices.
The power of choice.
Huge emphasis on this. The source talks about the butterfly effect, how seemingly small choices today can lead to massively different outcomes down the road.
And it warns strongly against treasonous choices.
Yeah, those are the irreversible bad decisions with permanent negative consequences. The example given is Andre's drunk driving incident cost him everything. Some choices you just can't undo. Avoid those at all costs.
And then there are the external forces navigating headwinds.
Right, the things working against you, like negative friends or family who constantly doubt you or drag you down. The advice, pick better warriors.
Surround yourself with supportive people.
Exactly. Or being stuck in a soul-crushing job environment that just drains all your energy and belief. That's a major headwind. Positive, supportive people create accelerative wins that push you forward. Toxic relationships, major roadblocks.
A really powerful point the source makes repeatedly is about valuing time.
Yeah, valuing time over money. Time is the ultimate finite resource. You can always figure out ways to make more money, but you can never get back lost time. The whole point of the fast lane isn't just riches, it's increasing your free time.
Which makes getting rid of parasitic debt absolutely essential.
That's the junk in the trunk slowing you down. Car payments on depreciating cars, huge mortgages you can barely afford, credit card debt for clothes and gadgets.
How does it slow you down?
Because that debt steals your future free time. It forces you into indentured servitude, working just to make those payments month after month, year after year.
It connects it back to instant gratification, right? The law of chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah. If you don't put the cookies in the shopping cart. take on the debt, they don't end up in your house, in your life. And they don't make you fat, steal your time and freedom. Just choosing not to incur that parasitic debt frees up immense mental energy and, eventually, time for building something real.
It's a total mindset shift on debt. Good debt versus bad debt.
Completely. And another part of tuning the driver? Continuous education. Change your oil.
Keep learning.
The world moves fast. You have to keep learning, adapting, but the source suggests doing it efficiently. Leverage existing time.
Like driving university.
Yeah. Audiobooks, podcasts while commuting, exercise university while working out, waiting university while stuck in line, finding pockets of time to learn without necessarily taking on huge student loan debt for formal education, unless it's absolutely critical for your specific Fastlane path.
Stay sharp, stay adaptable.
And crucially, none of this comes easy. It requires willingness and sacrifice.
You have to be willing to trade short-term comforts for long-term freedom.
That's the core trade-off. Maybe driving an older car while your friends finance new ones, working nights and weekends while others are out socializing. The book is pretty blunt. You need to distance yourself from the mindset of most people, because most people aren't willing to pay the toll. The hard work, the discipline, the short-term sacrifices required to build something extraordinary, that toll, that difficulty is actually what keeps the fast lane from being overcrowded.
Makes sense. What about failure? Seems inevitable if you're trying big things.
Failure isn't just possible, it's presented as necessary. Essential even. It's not the end of the road, it's part of the pavement. It's how you gain experience, wisdom, resilience.
But there's a difference between types of risk.
Huge difference. You need to distinguish between intelligent risks and moronic risks.
Okay, define those.
Intelligent risks have limited downside, but potentially unlimited upside. Like quitting a job you hate to start a fast lane business that follows the commandments. Worst case, maybe you struggle, maybe you have to get another job for a bit. Best case, massive wealth and freedom.
And moronic risk.
Unlimited downside, limited upside. Like gambling your life savings or taking on huge uncontrolled debt for a speculative venture. The source says, embrace intelligent risk, run from moronic risk. Often, the regret of not trying something is way worse than the sting of failing while trying.
And pulling all this driver stuff together, the absolute key is execution.
Yes, this gets hammered home. Ideas are cheap. Ideas are everywhere. Execution is priceless. The only thing that separates those who dream from those who achieve is taking action. Consistent, focused action.
Like playing chess, not checkers.
Good analogy from the book. Fastlane requires strategic thinking, seeing multiple moves ahead, and actually moving the pieces. And speed matters. Acting decisively, getting your product or service out there, learning from feedback that's critical. The world doesn't wait for perfect.
Speaking of feedback, the book has a lot to say about customers and building a brand.
Absolutely. First principle, listen to your tribe, your customers. Their feedback, especially complaints and suggestions, isn't noise. It's gold.
Why gold?
Because it's direct validation of needs, problems, and opportunities. It tells you exactly where you can improve or innovate. The source even breaks down different types of complaints, like complaints about a void, needing change, unmet expectations, or even exploitation, and how to learn from each one.
And that leads into creating service that SUCS.
Oh, yeah. Surprisingly unconventional customer service. The idea is that customer expectations are often pretty low these days.
That's great.
So if you consistently exceed those low expectations in positive, unexpected ways, you don't just get satisfied customers. You create loyal fans, disciples who become your best free marketing team through word of mouth.
Like that hotel example, Venetian versus Rio.
Exactly, showing that genuine human interaction and great service can often beat just fancy features. People connect with people and great experiences.
Okay, and as things grow, you need a team.
Yeah.
Hiring advice.
Hire carefully.
Yeah.
Very carefully. And operate on the principle of trust but verify. You need to trust people to do their jobs, but you also need systems in place to verify critical aspects, especially anything involving money or core operations. The Madoff example is used as a cautionary tale, the catastrophic cost of completely blind trust. Even employees, if not managed properly, can become hijackers of your system, like the gym example.
Good advisors are key too, right? Accountants, lawyers?
Essential. But the same principle applies. They advise, you decide. And you need to understand enough to verify their advice makes sense for your goals. Don't just abdicate responsibility.
What about the competition?
The advice is pretty pragmatic. Spend maybe 95% of your energy focused on your business, serving customers, innovating, improving your system. Only spend about 5% analyzing competitors.
What do you do with that 5%?
Look for their weaknesses. Look for ways to differentiate yourself significantly. Don't just copy them. Exploit the gaps they leave.
Which ties into building a brand.
Crucially, because businesses might survive, but brands thrive. A strong brand lifts you out of the commodity trap. It builds trust, desirability, allows you to command better prices.
Like Apple solving PC annoyances.
Perfect example cited. They solved needs and built an incredibly powerful brand around it. You need a clear, unique selling proposition, a USP.
What makes a good USP?
Short, clear, powerful, benefit-oriented, and integrated into everything you do. And don't be afraid to use unconventional marketing to cut through the noise. Polarizing, funny, emotional, remarkable, whatever it takes to get noticed by the right people.
Okay, one final huge point from the source material. Commitment.
Absolutely paramount. The book stresses business monogamy, at least initially.
Meaning focus on one thing.
Yes. Focus intensely on one fast-lane business. Treat it like a marriage. Avoid Teckle syndrome, jumping from one shiny new opportunity to the next without ever giving one the sustained effort needed to make it truly successful.
Get one success under your belt first.
Exactly. That first success provides the capital, the knowledge, the confidence, the foundation. Then, later on, you might have the resources and bandwidth to pursue multiple ventures, business polygamy, as the book calls it, but you have to make one work first.
And that takes 100% commitment, paying that toll we talked about.
No way around it.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. Someone's listening, maybe feeling inspired, maybe overwhelmed. How do they start their fast lane journey?
Well, the source presents it, importantly, not as some get-rich-quick magic trick, but as a personal journey, a process. And it anticipates the immediate objections people might have.
Like, I'm drowning in debt, or I hate my job but I'm stuck. I have literally no time. My spouse thinks I'm crazy.
All of those. And the answer circles back to the core principles we've been discussing. Change has to start internally with your beliefs, your choices. You can choose differently.
Opportunities are everywhere.
Yes, often hidden in plain sight in those complaints you hear, in everyday frustrations. Needs are everywhere, maybe outside your current job or situation. And time. Time isn't just something you lack. It's something you can leverage differently using those strategies like the universities or by cutting out time-wasting activities.
And it keeps hammering home the real goal.
Which isn't just collecting stuff to impress the neighbors. It's achieving genuine financial freedom, the ability to afford things easily because you're not trapped by debt or the need to constantly trade your time for dollars.
It really is about taking the driver's seat, choosing your road.
Choosing a road built on that solid foundation, solving real needs, where your income isn't handcuffed to the clock, where you have the potential for massive impact scale or magnitude, where you are in control, and where there's a real barrier to entry, meaning it requires effort and commitment, keeping it from being instantly overrun.
Wow, okay. That was a really thorough deep dive into a framework that definitely challenges conventional thinking about wealth. We've gone from the pitfalls of the sidewalk through the limitations and hopes of the slow lane.
And really explored the core principles, the commandments, the mindset shifts required for the fast lane, focusing on value creation, leverage, control, and systems.
The source makes a powerful case that building significant wealth doesn't have to be about just patience and hoping for the best over 50 years.
No, it argues it's about intentional design, smart strategy, hard work, and understanding, frankly, a different set of rules than most people play by.
So the knowledge, the ideas from this source material, they're now out there for you, the listener. But as the book itself makes crystal clear, knowing isn't enough.
Absolutely. The outcome hinges entirely on your choices from here on out, and maybe even more importantly, on your execution, taking action.
To leave you with one final thought from the source material, something to chew on. He who chooses the beginning of the road chooses the place it leads to. It is the means that determines the end.
So take a moment, think about the road you're on right now. Where's it really leading? What's the likely destination based on the means you're currently using?
And knowing you have the power to choose a different beginning, maybe even starting today, what's the first step you'll take?